I hope it's good wherever you guys may be. And maybe I should ask that as a question. And for everyone that is just coming in, maybe we can get some engagement from the crowd. Tell me where you're from and kamusta naman yung weather dyan sa inyo? Okay, we're getting a lot of good afternoons. Ayan, so meron tayo dito si Lou from Tanay Rizal. Oh, malapit lang. Medyo paulan, di ba? Pareho. Okay, we also have Abigail saying it's a sunny day here in La Union. Wow, napakasaya naman nasa LU. And we have Bea saying it's sunny in Makati. Yeah, okay. Okay, and for those coming in, sorry, we forgot to click the option to mute on entry. So if you see that you're unmuted, let's just mute na lang para di natin marinig lahat. Okay. Hello, Miss Kezi from Capiz State University. And good afternoon, everyone. Ayan. It's nice to see that it's sunny in a lot of places and that we're getting participants from all around the Philippines. So ayan, we have a couple from La Union, ang saya naman. One from Tacloban. Ayan. Okay. So as the participants are slowly pouring in, again, if you have friends that are excited to join us for today's webinar, be sure to send them the registration link or madali nyo lang makikita yan sa Facebook namin. And for those who don't have the bandwidth to enter Zoom room, we understand. Pwede mo rin kami i-view on YouTube because we are also live on YouTube as well. So, ayan. So with that, I guess we can start with our program. I guess I want to start things off by saying hi, good afternoon. My name is Luis Almazar, although you all can call me Alma. I will be moderating today's free webinar session. And what I do for Positive Workplaces is that I'm the Wellbeing Services Associate. And what that means is anything about our products and services and what we do, I'm an expert there and I will be the person you'll talk to if you're interested in these products. And it's also my job to host these free webinars because it's a way for me to get to meet many of you guys and see what opportunities PW has. And we always start things with our mission in Positive Workplaces, which is that we co-create cultures that enhance the well-being of the Filipino workforce. No, it's quite simple, but baka naiisip mo how? It's such a heavy thing to say that we co-create cultures, but how in fact do we do that? We do it through what is called positivity ripples. This is our strategy in making sure we are able to infect cultures the way that I mentioned. We start with leading the self, and how we do this is through this very thing that we're having right now, a webinar, trainings, learning sessions. A lot of the services and products that we offer is aimed on teaching people to become better leaders of their own well-being. Because when you can lead your own well-being, dun mo kaya sabihin that I can lead myself. And once you become a good leader of yourself, only then can you start to lead others. You can lead your coworkers, your boss, your subordinates. You lead them by showing them or like using what you learned in Positive Workplaces and really adapting those good cultures. And once you're able to influence others, this is how we begin to lead cultures. These examples of these cultures are compassion, team cohesion. These are just an example of the cultures that we love here in Positive Workplaces. And once we're able to do that more and more in our nation, that paves the way for what we call positive workplaces. So ayun ang strategy namin in making our mission come true. So thank you again for joining us this afternoon. This is the third of our March series. So for the second week of March, we had Elijah Corpus who talked about challenging toxic masculinity in the workplace. And last week, we had Aya Del Mundo who talked about the power of nurture in the workplace. Today, we have Bea Almoite who is gonna talk about DASURV mo says speak up and step up. So we're gonna pass it on to her later. But before we start with that, I just want to issue some reminders for everyone in the room. So one, this is gonna be a very engaging session. So make sure you have another device ready to go, or if you're on your laptop, you can also make use of that. because we make use of online collaboration tools like Menti that will allow you to interact and answer questions. So I also hope that you guys can prepare a pen and paper for your notes, and we highly encourage engagement in the chat. Like what I already see in the chat so far, the only thing I need to say is please be respectful for everyone there. And lastly, at the end, we will be opening an evaluation form at the end where you can get your e-certificate. It will only be open for 30 minutes. And an additional reminder for that is make sure that you write your full name and email po dun sa form na ibibigay namin. Kasi when you place your name there, that's gonna be what will be printed on the certificate. So we get a lot of emails saying mali yung nasa certificate, but then again, it's automatic and it's what you place there. So be careful with that. And lastly, we get a lot of traffic in our certification. So if you haven't received, kindly wait at least 2 days before sending us an email regarding your certificate. And yeah, that ends us for the reminders. So today we're going to talk about the DASURV mo sis, speak up and step up, a very important concept that we want our learners to imbibe. And who's gonna make that talk? And her name is Bea Almoite. She is a 2019 Australia Award Scholarship recipient who received her master's degree in International Development Practice at Monash University. Currently, she's working full-time at Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao government as the executive assistant of the cabinet secretary. And she's also a gender consultant for the Westminster Foundation for Democracy. Ang daming ginagawa nito ni Bea. And just to see how passionate she is the co-creator of her passion project called WOMAD Media, which is a portmanteau of women and the acronym Making a Difference. Kaya siya WOMAD. And that is a social media platform that aims to inspire a generation of learners through smart and engaging educational content. And that is very amazing. So without further ado, I pass the floor to you, Miss Bea.
Thank you so much, Alma. Hi, everyone. Magandang hapon. Or I'm from Cotabato City, so we say Mapya Malulum Silicano Language sa inyong tanan. Magandang hapon, but right now I'm in Makati. It's so sunny in here, so sunny Makati. So before I proceed with my presentation, allow me just to share my screen. Ayan. So I'm screen sharing. If you could just go to menti.com and use the code 93347111 or scan the QR code so it will be directed to the link. But I will also put in the chat yung link. Ayan. Nilagay na nga ni Joyce dito sa chat natin. Ano? So go to menti.com and use the code 93347111. So I'll probably give you, say, 1 minute to key in the code. Ayan. So sa mga nasa menti.com na, the first question there is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Ano yung pangarap mo noong bata ka pa lang? To be rich, Josa. Loved. I love it, Josa. To be loved, satisfied, interior designer. Be happy, Roar. Comfortable, happy and rich with Joa. CEO, ang saya. Gymnast, a happy and stable person. Satisfied, cartoonist, brand ambassador, professional, successful. Ang dami, ano? Businesswoman, art director. Ayan. If you're not into menti.com, you can use the chat button and I'll read. All right. So let's just one more time. Ayan. So just to make sure, ayan. Is it flashed on the screen already? So ayan, meron tayo psychology professor. To have a big family, to be a lady, to be healthy, to have my own airport. Ang dami. Sige, ano pa? To be satisfied, to be a CPA, to be stable, to be a dermatologist, to have my own business, animator, to be a gymnast, ayan, to be contented, be a nurse, psychologist, financially stable, ang ganda, to be a friend, to be independent, to be comfortable, ayan, to have a big family, to have an own business, to be a lady, to be an angel, ayan, ang dami pa, to be an actress, be a photographer. So as you can see, sa dami-dami ng mga pangarap natin, hindi lang siya in terms of profession. Marami tayo dito nakikita na ang pangarap ay maging loved, to be happy, to be satisfied. Now, if we go to the next question. Okay, the next question, were you able to achieve your dreams? Yes, no, maybe. Yes. Yan, ang daming yes, ang daming maybe, ang daming no's. Ayan, 11 yung no's natin. Ayan, umaakyat pa. Yan. So, ang daming no's. Susunod yung maybe and then merong mga yeses din. Okay, so we have 13 no's, 12 maybes. O yan, 14 na yung ating no's. And then, ang yeses natin is 9. So as we can see, marami sa mga pangarap natin at this point in time in our lives, hindi nangyari pa for others. Ang iba, nasa katuparan nila. Ang iba, medyo, pero not quite. Ayan, so mayroong mga yeses, no? So what does this mean? Bakit ko kayo tinatanong na ganito? I believe na yung mga pangarap natin sa buhay, somehow, it creates its own destiny, its own path to be where we are today. So for my topic, DASURV mo sis, step up. Ayan, so I'm sorry, I'm entering people. So ayan, meron pang mga yeses, may no's, and maybes. So I'll just show my screen. Ayan, PowerPoint. So tinanong ko kayo, what do you want to be when you grow up? Anong bang relevance nito sa topic ko na DASURV mo sis? I just wanted my presentation to be a bit personal, to be about my journey. And maybe in one way or another, makaka-reflect kayo or maybe we're similar in that journey. Yan. So my personal, sa akin po, ang pangarap ko talaga is to be the next Miss Universe. Hindi naiiba dun sa iba na maging Diyosa, maging rich, to be satisfied. That's what I wanted to be in life, to be the next Miss Universe. So when I was 13 when I said to my professor, to my teacher in high school, kasi he asked, what do you want to be? Every one of us were asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? So ako naman, I wrote, I want to be the next Miss Universe. And then the next day, when our teacher came to class, he told everyone in the room what my dream was. So sabi niya, ay, si Bea gusto niya maging Miss Universe. And then, yung klase namin, everyone laughed. I achieved nyo naman po. Sabi ni Mike, oh, thank you naman, Michael. Sabi pa ng mga klase ko, tawang-tawa sila. They couldn't find the words to say, but tawang-tawa sila. So at that point, I was 13. So medyo nahiya ako. Tapos during that time, I wanted the earth to swallow me right there and then. Kasi, and ito si Pia, yung itsura niya dito. This perfectly captures what I felt then. You know what? And it took me quite some time to reflect on my own dream, why I wanted to be Miss Universe. So growing up in the Philippines, dito masyado not political, but if you grow up in the Philippines or if you know a Filipino, you will come to know that apart from boxing, the other great Filipino obsession is beauty pageants. Tama ba? Okay, tingnan nga natin sa ating chat. Ilan na ba ang ating Miss Universe crowns? Meron tayong 4 na Miss Universe. So yung country natin, it hosts more than 300,000 beauty pageant contests every year. So in every imaginable category, meron mga pambabae, panglalaki, for juniors, seniors, disabled persons, for the LGBTQIA+, for pregnant women, for prisoners, and so on. So the opportunity is so vast in terms of beauty pageants in the Philippines. But for Filipinos, merong qualities dapat yung pagiging Miss Universe title holder natin. Ano ba yung mga qualities? Una, kailangan mo maging beautiful and charismatic. You also have to be tall. Dati, nire-require lang 5'4". Ngayon, 5 flat na lang. And then, you also have to be white or have fairer skin. And most especially, ang isang quality rin ng Miss Universe ay kailangan matalino ka. And as a teenager, 13 years old, unlike my peers, I was small. I was only 4'11" when I was 13. I had the darkest skin in class because primarily because I come from a multiracial background. And I was so overweight. And I realized all these things stem out from this problematic system in the Philippines. Actually, not just in the Philippines, but in other parts of the world. There's You will always hear the words, ito yung expectation. Ayan. Ayan ang qualities ng isang Miss Universe. But ito yung reality, facepalm moment. So, there's always a but or if only in every sentence na narinig ko. You're pretty, alam mo, maganda ka sana. Pero, and I remember this guy in my class, ito yung totga ko, the one that got away. So sabi niya sa akin, you know what? I would love to date you. Gusto kitang ligawan kung, if only, you lost some weight. So at that time, I felt, you know what? I was so voiceless. I was so unsure of myself and I was so insecure. I didn't think yung mga words na yun back then were so offensive because when you're a teenager in the Philippines, back in our days, especially if you live in a very conservative state in the country, I live in the Muslim region in Cotabato City, sexist and misogynistic remarks were viewed as advice. And standing up for equality and women empowerment were not a thing back then. It was not even taught in school. This was what? 2007. This was 2000 that time. Hindi pa uso yung women empowerment. Hindi pa uso yung acceptance through self-love. Wala pa ito, hindi masyado tinuturo sa mga schools natin. So, my insecurities got the best of me. And yung consolation ko na lang talaga, you know, I was the smartest in my class. I wouldn't deny that. And then yan yung sinasabi ng teacher ko, you know what, okay lang yung mga insulto nila because you're the smartest in my class. But for me, it wasn't enough. I didn't know where I would fit in because, you know what, high school was such a hellhole. And it was a heaven for many bullies. I'm sure marami sa atin yung high school, they have so many dark memories of high school. Maraming ayaw balikan yung high school. And I personally am one of those people. So I was thinking, how do I become a Miss Universe? Kung gusto ko, ito yung gusto kong pangarap. So paano ko siya maa-achieve? So how do I become one? Oh, sabi, I have to be fit. Pero, overweight ako, ang taba ko. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'll play sports. Tapos nag-iisip ako, ano kayang magandang sports? Pwede kayang volleyball? Pero kasi, pag nag-volleyball ako, too much exposure in the sun. So, mangingitim ako. So, definitely no. So, nag-iisip ako, how about badminton? Okay, a lot of people are playing that already. So, definitely no. I have to stand out. Kailangan iba yung different sports ko. Now, I was thinking, how about taekwondo? Okay, this would work, but masasaktan ako eh. So, okay, wag na lang. Okay, and then here's a brilliant idea. I watched sports on TV and I saw Serena Williams. I'm gonna play tennis. Kasi kokonti lang, especially in Cotabato City, kokonti lang yung naglalaro ng tennis. Because it's quite an expensive sport. And so I played tennis. But, you know what? A Miss Universe also has to be smart. But, although, sabi ng teacher ko, I'm the smartest in my class, but I'm not the smartest in the batch. So, average lang yung katalinuhan ko. So what am I gonna do to become a Miss Universe? Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna join book clubs and read and read. And umabot pa sa time na yon na kailangan kong magbasa ng 5 to 10 books. Just to become, you know, not just a bookworm, but be smart enough to know what's happening around. Para kung merong tatanungin sa akin na certain topic, alam ko agad. And then, kailangan, di ba, pag Miss Universe ka, maganda ka. But beauty is very subjective. It's very debatable. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder nga. Depende, ang kagandahan ng isang tao, depende sa pananaw ng ibang tao rin. So, here's what I'm gonna do. I know I couldn't be beautiful right away. Walang genie in the bottle. I couldn't make a wish. What I'm gonna do, you know what? I'll learn Photoshop. And aside of video editing too. So, little did I know, all these things, my insecurities really find me, both in a good and an ugly way. So let's start with this, the ugly side of it, yung Photoshop. When I learned and mastered Photoshop, I realized the dark truth behind perfecting my appearance. So I was attempting to construct a false visual narrative about myself, a reflection of how I anticipated wanting to be perceived by the world. And this was largely motivated by my personal insecurities. And imagine, it started at the age of 13. So while we all know yung Disneyland is the happiest place on earth, sabi nila, some people feel it's social media. We felt compelled to distort our realities in order to feel about ourselves, to create a physical fantasy for the world to see. And then that went on and on for years. Even up to this day, I still use Photoshop to Photoshop my photo. So I didn't realize na it would impact my future. And I was also living in a world that did not care of the issues that's happening around the world. Walang pakialam about sexism, misogyny, gender stereotypes, discrimination. But you know what? Something happened to me that made me who I am today, to stand up and speak out. It was in 2017, just what, 5 years ago. So it was not until March of 2017 when I woke up to the news about the record-breaking history of the 63 female cadets, the greatest number of women to graduate in a single class of the Philippine Military Academy. So PMA, as we all know, is the country's premier military institution. And news about women truly breaking barriers was all over the tri-media and shared by thousands on social networking sites. Pero kahit ganun yung celebration na yun, despite the feat, I was so dismayed when I heard the news report about it. Because while the event was a cause for celebration, the AFP issued a statement that shook, ayan sa millennial term pa, shook my world. I'll show you the video and let me know in the chat button how you would react. Kasi ako, nung napanood ko to, bagong gising ako. So automatically, galit yung una kong naramdaman after I saw this news. Ayan, I'll play this video for you. This was in 2017.
Pare-pareho ang kilos at pareho rin ang pinapakita gaya ng marami ng PMA graduation na nagdaan. Pero may espesyal dito sa PMA Selective Class of 2017. Sa kasaysayan ng Philippine Military Academy, sila ang may pinakamaraming babaeng miyembro. At hindi lang yan, 8 sa kanilang top 10, puro babae rin.
Sa buong sambayanang Pilipino, handa na po kaming magsilbi sa inyo.
Guest of honor sa graduation, si Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, na bago kausapin ang mga kadete ay nagbigay muna ng mensahe para sa mga nagbuwis na ng buhay sa serbisyo.
Puso akong nakikiramay sa mga nasawi sa kamay ng kalaban. Let me assure the bereaved that the valiant sacrifices of your loved ones will not be in vain.
Pero nangangalahati na ang speech niya bago niya maalalang batiin ang isa pang babae.
I'd like to apologize and acknowledge the presence of the beautiful lady, the Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines. Sorry, Mama. Nawala na ako tuloy, Ma'am.
Hindi nagtabi sina Duterte at Robredo. Sa halip, pinaupo si Robredo sa gilid ni Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana. Babae ang lamang sa klaseng ito. Pero ayon sa Armed Forces at sa Department of National Defense, malamang ay bawasan nila sa susunod ang dami ng babae nilang kukunin. Dahil sa huli, lalaki pa rin daw ang hinahanap-hanap nila para sa mundo ng digmaan. Shara Zambrano, ABS-CBN News, Baguio City.
Ayan. So, quoting Chara Zambrano's report on TV Patrol, sabi niya, the AFP and the DND said that the number of women recruits will be lessened because in the end, it is still men who will be sought in the world of war. Lalaki pa rin ang hahanap-hanapin sa panahon ng digmaan. You know what? It's 2017. Such statement from the PMA disheartened me because of its sexism and misogyny. At that time, I didn't actually know the words existed. I know na nangyayari itong, akala ko pa dati, this is just discrimination, but this is so sexist and so misogynist. And the 2017's batch of PMA had a feat never before achieved in their history. And among the top 10, nakita nyo naman sa video kanina, 8 were women. And the top notcher, a woman. So what I did was, I wrote a Facebook post, kasi kakagising ko lang, napanood ko yung video. I wrote a Facebook post so angry. And then it was shared by many of my online friends. And what happened when I spoke up spoke about it, I landed a page, a column in the Philippine Daily Inquirer. This is hindi naman bago sa atin to. This is an English language newspaper in our country on their young blood section. So, na-realize ko, I have to rant really about it. But I did not really expect that it would be published in a newspaper. I always knew I had a voice, but PDI, or the Philippine Daily Inquirer, amplified it so many more people can hear my thoughts. And I also realized, hindi ako ganun na tao yung tipong masalita or mag-comment. But I realized it is more powerful to speak out than it is to remain mute in resentment. And so days after it was published, Antonio Lavinia, Philippine lawyer, educator, and environmental policy expert, he shared my article, and it sparked conversation in the online world because he was a well-known public figure in the country because he served the government as a policy advisor for years. And then my article, for some reason, reached the PMA, which led them to apologize and retract their statement and have strongly stressed how gender equality is important to them. Ayan, sabi ni Jana, so frustrating. Even now, no matter how we fight for women empowerment and gender equality, the discrimination still exists. The remarks, babae lang, or di kaya ng babae yan for certain job, which were thought for masculine only, still sucks. And this is actually so true. To be honest with you, I'm an engineering graduate. And every time when people ask me, anong course mo ng college? And I would say, oh, engineering. And they would say, di ba panlalaki yan? There's always masculinity attached to us, not just a certain profession, but in everything that we do. So even up to this day, we're still in 2022. We're in 2022, and I can't believe women are still fighting for a seat on the table to coexist with other sexes and other genders. So what does this say in our society? So after that article was shared, I spoke to many politicians about it, and then I was invited in IRAP sa Thailand and became the youth ambassador, one of the youth ambassadors of the Philippines, not just to talk about sexism, misogyny, but gender equality and women empowerment. Because remember, I live in a Muslim region, and in a culture, in a patriarchal culture, hindi po pwede at hindi maaari na mag-lead ang isang babae. Even in prayers, we're not allowed to pray if there are men around. So kahit it's a women-led organization or women organization sa isang place, if there's a man, kahit iisa lang yung man, you are not allowed to pray. Kasi lalaki yan, panlalaki lang siya. I still live in a patriarchal system. And imagine I'm in the government and we use parliamentary form of government. Out of 80 parliament members in the Bangsamoro regional government, we have 13 or 16% of the pie lang yung mga kababaihan. So, anong nangyari ba? After I spoke about it, so I became a representative to the ASEAN Summit in 2017, and a year after, Philippine representative to the UN conference. I didn't realize how na malaki pala yung impact ng mga words, hindi lang ng binibitawan, but words that are posted online. I didn't really realize as well. Kumbaga, it shocked me rin na, ay marami rin pala yung ganun yung opinion sa akin, but they just couldn't voice their opinion because of, sometimes there's fear, sometimes because hindi nila practice din na magsalita on a certain topic. Because nowadays, you're being red tagged if you speak something truthfully. And also, depende rin siya sa konteksto kung saan ka nakatira. Again, in the Muslim region, it's really hard to speak up because of the norms, because of the culture, and because of other external factors there are. Okay. Ayan. So this is my Australia Awards story daw. I realized then in 2017, you know what? I'm not really happy. I have to be somewhere to talk about it. Kasi it's not enough to just talk about it. Kasi ang dami, in the Bangsamoro region, there are a lot of empowered women, but they just don't have the platform. So I realized, you know what, if I want to make a difference, if I want to speak about gender equality and women empowerment, I have to be somewhere. So that's when I decided to pursue a postgrad degree in Melbourne. So in Monash University, to be exact, under the Australia Award Scholarship. This was in 2019. Everyone's talking about gender equality, the Me Too, and I thought to myself, you know what? This is where I want to be. This is what I want to be. I want to wake up and do more than just serve myself. And even though I did not get to be Miss Universe, I was able to understand that certain virtues cannot be compared to any superficial quality of a person. And one of these virtues is kindness. You have to be kind to one another. And the undeniable beauty in kindness is incomparable. And even though I knew I couldn't win a Miss Universe crown, merong age limit din yung Miss Universe. I'm 27 now. I couldn't win a Miss Universe crown. I developed my values and skills to be confident in standing up for what I believe and taking up space and speaking out to issues really. You know what? Meron akong nilagay ito. Ito yung road to Miss Universe ko. Ito na yung qualities that I developed, I realized. We always have to use our eyes to look for the good in others, to open our mouth and speak only of kind words. But don't forget to speak up about human rights violations, about different issues in our society, to develop your poise, walking with your head held high with the knowledge that no matter where you are in life, you inspire and empower not just the women, but everyone around you. And to always remember, you have two hands. One is for helping yourself and the other for lifting others. Ang ganda nga ng sinabi ni Alma when I met him, na in positive workplaces, para siyang, halimbawa pag nag-crash yung airplane, di ba meron kang yung, what do you call, the oxygen. You have to save yourself first. And this is the same way. You have to help yourself first before you can help others. Now, I asked you this question. This was the first slide. What do you want to be with when you grow up? So all my experiences as a younger, at age 13, who dreamed of one day become a Miss Universe, turned into a 27-year-old woman who realized that, you know what, we should not be asking kids or young people, the children, what they want to be when they grow up. So exto, I realized we should not be asking this question. What we have to ask is, what problems do you want to solve when you grow up? Because you know what? I'm all for encouraging young people to dream big and aim high. However, you know what? Take it from someone whose aspirations are bigger than her work. When children are asked what they want to be, they often claim a career identity they will never want to earn. Instead, invite them by asking what problems do you want to solve when you grow up. You invite them to think what kind of person they want to be and about all the different things they might want to do. And I really also realized, aside from speaking up, what we also really need to do is for us to step out from behind the microphone, make room at the table, and give the voiceless a chance to speak. We always hear the words, be a voice to the voiceless. But at the same time, we also have to give them the chance to speak. And this was in 2008, again, August 25, 2008, I said there, how do you see yourself 10 years from now? Basically, somehow the same phrasing of what problems do you want to solve when you grow up? So I said there, you know what? I will be 24 years old 10 years from now. With the blessings of our Almighty God by that time, I see myself as a successful career woman. I hope that I will deserve all the blessings I would have received. In return, in my own little way, I could also share what I have to those people who in one way or another touched my life and made me what I am. I also see myself using my God-given talents and influence to help people in need. And I realized, you know what, kahit hindi ko naabot yung pagiging Miss Universe, my 13-year-old self would be so proud because of her journey in life, because she has used her God-given talents to influence people, to speak out of human rights issues, which is what we really need to do. And so last year, I asked my friend Hazel, I told her, you know what? We graduated from prestigious universities, but how are we going to make an impact? Paano ba natin magagamit yung edukasyon natin? Is it just by working in the government or do consultancy project? How do we make an impact? So that's when we co-created Woman Media, a media platform where we can talk about gender equality, sexism, misogyny, women's problems, and issues that matter. So yeah, like what Alma said earlier, Women Media is a portmanteau of women and the acronym Making a Difference, a media platform that aims to inspire a generation of learners through smart and engaging educational content. So kanina, sinabi ko kanina niyo pa narinig about sexism. What I'm going to do now is I'll share with you this 3-minute video we created to spread awareness about women's issues, sexism in particular, because this is an everyday thing. So we wanted to spark a conversation of the everyday struggle we face, explicitly or ambiguously.
Huwag ka nga masyadong madrama.
Hindi kaya ng babae yan.
Inaaway ka niya kasi gusto ka niya. Napaka-bossy mo naman.
Huwag ka nga masyadong pag-girl. Masyado ka kasing opinionada para maging babae.
Babae ka, ikaw dapat ang maglilinis, ikaw dapat ang magluluto. Kasi trabaho mo yan.
Ang moody mo naman. Nare-regla ka ba?
Di ka marunong magluto? Di ka pa pwede mag-asawa?
Bakit mo pala siya na Renzo?
Okay lang ba sa asawa mo na mas malaki ang kinikita mo kaysa sa kanya?
Binastos ka? Ano ba kasi ang suot mo?
Napaka-emotional mo naman.
Uy, kailan mo planong magkaanak?
Ano? Nakaplanong magkaanak?
Single ka pa rin?
Mas maganda sa babae pag hindi naka-makeup.
Masyadong maikli ang suot mo. Magpalit ka nga.
Naglilipin kayo?
Mas maganda ka kung nakapistida.
Ay, di na virgin.
Ba't di mo siya iwan?
Intindi mo na lang. Mas nauna tayo nagpamature mga babae.
Single mom ka. Nako, sayang ka.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Uy sis, magayos ka nga. Gusto mo iwanan ka ng asawa mo?
Ang lakas mong kumain para sa isang babae. Engineering? Di ba panlalaki yan?
Di bagay sa babaeng umiinom.
Parang di babae kung kumilos.
Matino ba yan? Panay pa sexy lang alam niyan eh. Pupodera.
Mga babae talaga, lahat na lang may reklamo.
Okay lang sa'yo na stay-at-home mom ka lang?
Bakit di mo gamitin ang apelyido ng asawa mo?
Ang ganda mo sana kung hindi ka na napabayaan sa kusina.
Maganda ka siguro ng kabataan mo.
Nawawala ka na sa kalendaryo. Mag-asawa ka na.
Pasalamat ka nga at sinusutan ka pa.
Maganda ka lang kasi maputi ka.
Parang di babae kung tumawa.
Babae siguro ang driver. Mas maganda ka kung nakangiti ka.
Huwag kang masyadong career-oriented. Hindi ka magkakajowa niyan. Malamang may intimidate sila sa'yo.
Kailan ka magpapakasal?
Yan. You know, sexism happens not just every day, but every hour of every day, every minute, every second. It happens. I know, ayan, if you have, ayan, dito sa chat, if you could just share, ano ba yung mga sexist words na napapakinggan ninyo? Or sometimes this is being asked to us. And you know what? These people in the video, they are not used to speaking. But when I ask them, I message them, like, how do we educate people about sexism? It is best to ask them about their experiences. So ayan, yung mga sinasabi nila, these are not scripted. But we ask them, ano ba yung sexist phrases na naririnig nyo everyday? And we compile it. Kasi akala natin maliit lang, no? Yung, kailan ka magpapakasal? Bakit wala ka pang jowa? Akala natin yun lang, pero ang dami-dami pala ang nangyayari. So, I think it's not just about speaking every day about it, but asking people what issues, and how would they relate? And then, you know, us in Women Media, we just create informative videos for us to be able to know ano nga ba yung practices. Kasi even us, sometimes we're not just biased, but we have unconscious bias. It's Women's Month, like we have to break the bias. So, ayan, I would like to share with you this quote from Maria Shiver. Use your voice in ways that might initially scare you. That can be an architect of change. So, if you're afraid to speak up, just speak up. Kasi katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, if hindi ka magsasalita, silence will always be a resentment. And I've always loved this phrase, kung hindi ako, sino? Kung hindi ngayon, kailan? Ayan. I'm just going to read some of the chat button dito. Ay, yung mga chat dito ha. Ayan, sabi ni Amy, living in a place with a culture practicing patriarchal system makes us work harder to have our voices heard. And there are still times that men feels like we are disrespecting or overruling them whenever we speak up. It's frustrating, but we will continue to take space. Laban. And it's also important to know one of the most powerful words that we know is I am, I do. But one of the most powerful words ever that exists is also no. We always have to say no if it's making us uncomfortable, if we don't want it. Which is why I'm always going to share with you my New Year's resolution every year. Always never say yes when you mean no. So no is a very powerful word. We just have to practice it. Yan, sabi, positive workplace said, gosh, this hurts. And Mary, you're such a powerful video. Very accurate. Ang informative. Ang ganda. Sabi ni Alma, true na these little comments might not seem like it's the absolute worst thing, but adding them up really puts things into perspective. And then even I sometimes catch myself saying some of these things, sabi ni John. Katulad nga, meron tayong may unconscious tayo of these things. Especially, papapansin niyo, though the gender advocates as well, they are sometimes unconscious of their own biases. And then I always hear people say, bakit siya nagmumura ka babaeng tao? Or okay lang ba sa lalaki nagyosi pero kadiri pag sa babae? And it breaks my heart. And this is reality. And in 2022, when we're talking about Me Too movement, women empowerment, this is still happening. And ayan, tanungin ko kayo sa chat, sa 170 plus na country sa buong mundo, ilan kaya ang naka-achieve ng gender equality? Ayan, ang makakatamang sanggol, bibigyan natin ng 100 na Gcash. None. Ayan, sabi ni Amy and Alma, none. Okay, so I'm going to send you Gcash, Amy and Alma. Ayan, and Edna. So meron tayong 3 people. Sabi, none. So Amy, Alma, and Edna, please message me privately. Send me your number so I can transfer 100 pesos worth of Gcash. So yun, wala pang nakaka-achieve ng gender equality. And ang hirap din for many people, for young women to speak up because of the different external factors that we have. Even Thailand po. Yes, Thailand. Hindi pa po. Even Singapore, New Zealand, Canada, kalahati ng miyembro ng parliament, not the parliament, but cabinet members in Canada ay mga kababaihan. But they have not achieved gender equality because you also have to look at legislations. Gaano ba siya gender sensitive? Gaano ba siya gender responsive? I also wanted to make time for Q&A, so I'll just end this. You know what? I'm 27 now. I have no crown, no title, Miss Universe, but my experiences realizing of speaking up and standing up for others led me to a Miss Universe journey. So once again, thank you very much. I'm not the Miss Universe Philippines, but I'm Miss Universe in my own terms. Thank you. Maraming salamat. If you have any questions, please feel free, or if you have any experiences, insights about this topic, please feel free to share in the chat button. Thank you.
Yeah. Again, Bea, that was so great. But again, I don't want to give my ending piece yet because just like what she said, we're open to a Q&A that si Joyce, our tech support, has sent in the chat room. Pero pwede ko rin ipakita sa inyo na ito yung link na gagamitin natin. So pwede nyo rin siyang i-QR code or you can go to the website manually and enter the passcode to enter the Q&A session. And don't worry, you have a choice, of course, to submit a question anonymously. Actually, if you don't do anything, it will always send anonymously. So, ayan. And I guess while waiting, Nobe, I wanted to mention again that just to start things off, I think that was a very, very powerful story that you shared. I find it's amazing that in you sharing your journey and your experiences in your life, now you're able to teach us how to speak up and step up, especially when it's important to do so. So ayan, we have our first question in. So ayan, thank you for that empowering presentation. I'd like to get your thoughts on the Men Are Trash movement.
And what are my thoughts on on Men Are Trash? Actually, narinig ko to sa mga kaibigan ko, especially those people, those friends who are experiencing heartbreak. This also speaks out about misogyny and sexism kasi naka-target siya sa mga kalalakihan. And we also have to know, ano ba yung konteksto ng men are trash? So I think before we talk about men are trash, we also have to contextualize it. In women media, it's important for us to know ano ba yung story behind men are trash. So probably my thoughts on this is, kasi napaka-negative ng men are trash. Why would you say, ayan, gusto ko lang din malaman din sa chat, bakit ba natin nasasabi na men are trash? Before I give my thoughts, paano ba natin nasasabi na men are trash? Some of these people, yung mga kaibigan ko, sinasabi na men are trash because they experience heartbreak. Meron silang experience sa isang lalaki o sa partner nila. Kaya nadya-generalize lahat ng kalalakin. Ayan, sabi ni Amy, when they do not know how to respect women. But we also have to acknowledge by saying that men are trash, we're saying this to men generally. Oh, there's also a movement about, actually, this is very informative. This is news to me. There's men are trash movement. I have to just Google this. You know what? This is just the first time I heard men are trash movement. So the men are trash movement is not an attack on men, but what the movement aims to do is to address the patriarchal privilege that men have enjoyed since. So this is also about Me Too movement din pero kalalakihan. I think it's very empowering yung men are trash if we're going to talk about yung patriarchal privilege nila. But if we're going to use men are trash movement to attack men in general, I think that's not what the aim of this movement is all about. Okay, next, meron tayong one vote. How do you speak up without getting scared of the backlash of your words, especially when you're afraid to be judged? I think we also have to be really careful of the words that we use. Yung mga words kasi, especially online, we have to be careful online. Whatever you put online, it's going to stay there forever. So what I usually do is before I post it, I just ask people, especially my friends, what do you think about this? What's your opinion of this? Pero I also understand, yung spur of the moment thing na pinopost natin siya agad without really having to think about it. You have to justify where you stand. Ay, sana yun siya nawala na, sorry. Ayun. Especially if you're afraid of being judged, don't be, because there are many people who have the same voice as you. Katulad ng sinabi ko kanina kay Maria Shiver, you have to use your voice in ways that might initially, it will really scare you at first. And that could be an architect of change. Meron tayong usually anxiety when we speak up, when we post online especially. Tapos we're so afraid to be judged. And then there's always a sigh of relief when you know there are people who would back you up, who have the same sentiments as you. So I just really speak up. Yeah, being scared is actually the first reaction that we have. But I think yung mga small steps, little by little, when we develop these things, we're no longer afraid to talk about how we feel. Speaking of not being afraid of how we feel, this also goes in reality, not just about talking societal problems, but also in relationships. Usually, I'm not sure if it's just me, nakalakihan ko kasi yung how I feel, especially sa mga kalalakihan, hindi sinasabi ano yung nararamdaman nila. So, we just stand in silence. We just present in silence. So, kaya importante na dahan-dahan ipakita natin, iparamdam natin how we feel. We have to talk about how we really feel. If this is making me uncomfortable. Kasi yung mga bagay na to, it ripples. Hindi mo nababantayan din sa sarili mo na over the years, you're developing to say no. This is making me uncomfortable. This is not okay with me. Kasi lagi tayong okay lang sa akin, oo lang tayo ng oo. But if we develop these things, if we're being afraid, then I think this is a good sign. Sana po yung iba. Ayan.
So, we have this 5 votes. I guess we can answer that question since not super related naman to the ano. But we'll get to that. Don't worry. These 5 votes. Ayan, yung fourth naman, and there's another question that's like it. Paano po ba mag-speak up sa kapwa mo kung babae na yung are the ones committing the act of sexism?
This happened when we published the video. Merong pinapanood ng nanay ko to. Tapos sabi niya, ay, hindi ko alam na sexist pala to. And then sinabi niya pa sa ate ko na, alam mo, tanda mo na, ba't hindi ka mag-asawa? And then we said, you know what, that's sexism. We had to explain what sexism is all about. Kasi this is linked to our beliefs about yung fundamental nature of women and yung roles ng kalalakihan din that play in our society, yung mga sexist assumptions sa kababaihan at kalalakihan na nagmamanifest din about gender stereotypes. So what we just do is we call them out. You know what? This is sexist, and this is what sexism is all about. And that's when they realize, oh, this is not okay. I should not be saying this. It's really important to educate people instead of attacking them.
Mm-hmm. Ayan. Thanks for that, Bea. Ayan, your next question naman is, what can you say to those women not being able to find partners? Then they tend to find closeness to women as well. Then they end up as lovers.
You know, I could relate to this. Unang-una, it's really okay to not have a partner. What is your purpose in life really? Is it to find a partner? You have to ask yourself, ano ba yung purpose mo in life? I have a friend who's also here. One of the participants, sabi niya sa akin na kailangan niya ng jowa para magkaroon ng direksyon yung buhay niya. And then we talked about it. Siguro, talaga ba? Kasi, well, iba-iba tayo ng perception and experience. But I think we have to be okay. Kasi nandito pa tayo sa society na pag single ka, kawawa ka, walang mag-aalaga sa'yo, paglaki. If you're a strong, empowered woman, then you can do anything with or without a partner. So it's really okay to not have a partner. Ayun, nung sinabi niya naman na then they tend to find closeness to women as well, then ended up as lovers. There's this series ata episode, yung kay Angelica Panganiban. I forgot the title of the movie. And with Maris Racal. I just have to remember this movie. Wait, I forgot. The Kangs Show. Ayun, The Kangs Show. Yes, Yasmin, that's it. The Kangs Show. I'm not sure if this was the third episode. This was actually explained. I think it's a web series. Ayan, thank you so much, Josel. It's not a movie, it's a web series that pretty much explained bakit na-develop tayo sa kapwa natin babae. Kasi, although marami akong kakilala na they said that they're straight, like really straight, but you know, over the years, they've developed a love or feelings for this with the same sex. So I think that's really okay. So I think, you know what, I also encourage you to watch it, to be educated really about, not just about sexuality, but the realities of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ayun. So we have here a comment/question from Sassy. Yeah, she thinks it's impossible to change the culture that men are preferred as a combatant, presidency status, or in leadership. What at least could be ways to minimally use this facade or nomenclature?
Yes, men are preferred in combatant, presidency status, or leadership works. What could be ways, at least to minimally use this facade or nomenclature? Okay, I'll just have to do it research-based. Pagdating sa, aliba, sa combatant, there's a quota. May quota na ginagawa ang Philippine Military Academy and even the Police Academy. I'm not sure if it's accurate up to this day, pero ang alam ko 16% before. I'm not sure if it went higher or not. Pagdating sa presidency status or leadership work, I'll probably just relate it to the Bangsamoro region in our region because we have a separate government. So, wala kaming quota. Ito na yung tinatawag natin na descriptive and substantive representation. Pag may descriptive representation ka, binibigyan mo ng quota, ito yung seats for women. Let's just say, out of 140 or 50, kalahati nun para sa kababaihan. That could be a way para ma-minimize, okay, nawala na siya, para ma-minimize yung realities na to. Pwedeng mag-introduce tayo ng quota system. Or, it doesn't mean naman kasi itong substantive representation, even though, ang baliktad naman ng descriptive representation, yung substantive, even though kakaunti lang yung babae, as long as they represent women's voices, that's already okay, even though kokonti lang sila. So I think one way is to introduce a quota system. And there's also an interesting lecture from Ma'am Amina Rasul, one of the gender champions that we have in this country. She said na kahit babae ka, it doesn't mean na kailangan magsuporta ka rin ng babae. Not just in politics, but in real life. Because you also have to think, to look at the leadership qualities, yung qualities ng person, the values of a person. So ayun, if we're talking about politics and leadership, presidency, I think research-based, we have to introduce quota system. And of course, encourage more women to be in politics. Dahil kokonti pa rin talaga yung mga kababaihan. Because of, yes, patriarchal systems still exist even up to this day.
Ayan. Thank you for sharing that. Ayan. Yung next question mo is, do you believe that here in the Philippines, gender equality is just tolerable but not acceptable? Same goes sa LGBTQIA+. Yung tipong aware sila na nandyan pero hindi talaga tanggap.
This is true. I actually believe this is actually an 100% true statement. I think gender equality, acceptance, for SOGI, LGBTQIA+, I think these are all lip service until we pass the SOGI bill and then we make policies that is gender responsive. So, yes, totoo to, tolerable lang, but not acceptable. I could not say that. Depende kasi sa konteksto. Kanina pa sinasabi yung konteksto. But if I'm going to answer this related to where I live in the Bangsamoro region, yes, tolerable. We accept gay people, but we don't really. We accept there are gay people, there is lesbian or other genders, but it's not acceptable. We have laws that prohibits them. One example I can give you is we have the draft Gender and Development Code. Lahat ng mga local government unit merong Gender and Development Code. In the Bangsamoro region, it is still being drafted. Now, I'm one of the drafters of this code. This is my re-entry action plan after I earned my degree in Australia. Meron doon sa Gender and Development Code na this is still debatable, kaya hindi napapasa ito. Because gays are not, if you're gay, if you're lesbian, you're not allowed to join pageants. Hindi ka pwedeng mag-cross-dress. So, yes, we acknowledge it, but no, you cannot practice it. Depende again sa konteksto. So I think, yes, pagdating sa gender equality, tolerable lang. Kasi marami dito, we have Magna Carta on women. Isang law din nun, yung 3-month leave ng mga kababaihan. But it's applicable to women, but to men, how about yung leave credits din ng mga tatay? So, yes, how I would just wrap this question. We are aware, generally in the Philippines, we advocate for gender equality. But if we look at the laws, the policies that we have, it's not gender responsive. It's all just lip service.
Yeah, ayun. I think we have time to answer a couple more questions. Yeah, and we have a simple one. How to support inclusivity without tolerating liberated culture? Or are they really intertwined?
How do we support inclusivity without tolerating liberated culture? We have to define what liberation is all about. Siguro kung sa nagtanong nito, if you could just use the chat button, ano ba yung liberation? What does liberated mean to you? Because it differs from one way or another. Or are they really intertwined? O alam mo ba, yung mga questions dito, pang Miss Universe. How do we support inclusivity na hindi tayo nagda-tolerate ng liberated culture? You know, yung liberated culture kasi differs from one state to another. But siguro in general na lang, because liberation is about exploring and expressing our perceptions and understanding about lived experience and envisaging new realities. I believe they are intertwined. Personally, I believe they are intertwined. How do we support it? It's just all about understanding where people come from and yung respect. I think at the end of the day, respect is what we need to make this world more inclusive and responsive.
Yes, ayan. I completely agree. Okay, I think we have time for at least just 2 more questions. I like that this is very quick and easy. And then I see a lot of actionable steps from the advice that you can give for this. But how to unlearn po yung internalized misogyny?
How do we unlearn? Yes, this is more important. We have to unlearn so many things. For example, as yung feminine, if we talk about femininity, laging sinasabi na napaka-inferior nito. Merong mga tao na they identify themselves as feminine, pero they identify themselves as feminine, but iba yung sex nila. So, we have to express ourselves uniquely and individually with equally valid goals and dreams and aspirations. So, I think it's really important to unlearn. We have to relearn. So, we have to educate ourselves on this misogyny para ma-break natin yung bias, para malaman natin yung unconscious biases na yon.
Tama. Yan. So, I hope this is a really big action step for everyone here, no? Kasi ako I definitely relate to this in a sense na mga phrases that your parents would always say, mga lola at lola, that they would always say na you've begun to internalize and you did not know it was misogynistic until you grew up and you were more educated. So I really see this as a great action step.
I agree. Tapos, alam mo, napaka-immersed kasi tayo sa sexism and gender stereotypes. Even from the day we were born. Kailangan pink sa babae, kailangan blue sa lalaki. And it really takes unlearning what society has taught us about gender and sexuality to recognize that we have our own internalized misogyny. So by education, by self-acceptance, we will be able to shed this internalized misogyny and learn to uplift fellow women. But unfortunately, the reality is there are still a lot of people out there who continue hating women because of their own immaturity or self-esteem issues. There's still hate going on in the world.
And just like what si Amy mentioned nga in the chat on what steps you can take in. Start by practicing day by day. Be always cautious and conscious of the things you say in every conversation that you have. So the big thing there is on really being mindful on what we can do to be better now that you know what better is. So,
yes.
Yun.
Being
intentional. Tama. Ayan. And again, the questions that keep pouring in, but then unfortunately, we don't have the time to answer all of the questions. That's why I would also like to invite you guys to reach out to Bea just in case you have some questions that you feel there's a dire need to be answered. And then maybe Bea will be able to answer you. But at least I want to end with a question that denotes our title. And what we're trying to impart on our learners. When can you say that you have to speak up and step up? When
someone is uncomfortable with a certain situation that they could not voice their opinion, you have to speak for them and step up for them. Because not everyone are given the platform or the opportunity or even the values to speak for themselves. So if something's uncomfortable with someone, you have to speak up and step up.
Okay. And again, we even have a question in the chat box now. But I guess maybe you can give us some time and maybe they will be able to reply to you kahit on chat. So yeah, again, because we have to end on time rin naman. So the last thing I want to put out here is for those for the ones who asked this question and voted, especially for the permission to share. Yes, you may share. You can find this video that's being recorded live. You will find it on our YouTube after the session has ended. And feel free to share any of the resources that you find interesting there. And when it comes to joining positive workplaces, this is actually part of my ending piece later on. So, okay, let me just unshare and share once again. Just to end things, I want to mention, I want to give a great big thanks again to Miss Bea Almoite. What I love the most is how, again, you were able to use your experiences to teach us, and especially towards the end where you're bringing really so much more awareness and you're inspiring a lot of people here to change their actions. And I just wanted to share, this is why we wanted to make this webinar not only just for our female audiences that join our webinars, but also for the men and everyone else, to gain awareness, to know na, okay, maybe we are a part of the problem, but it doesn't mean that we should remain blind to it. Maybe we can learn some steps in order to improve or make the environment better for women, and that is what you did today for us. So I want to thank you again,
Thank
Miss
you.
Bea. And I guess I wanted to ask, like, do you have any final words that you would want to mention for the audience, or a final piece?
Siguro, ayan, chinat ko na. Pero siguro, yung final words ko, sagot din yun kay Luno. I think it's really unusual to find a platform in a world where women and trans or the LGBTQIA+ are given the opportunity to lead, and a place where their voices are amplified. And I think one of the most effective platforms, be it in the Miss Universe, through your organization, through your barangay, or wherever, we have to champion causes, regardless of our gender. We have to champion many causes and fight against numerous social injustices in the world. And we have to develop ourselves to be leaders and make a positive impact on the world with our voices. But in our workplaces, we have to create a positive workplace. Diba? We have to co-create a culture. So, katulad ng ginagawa ng positive workplaces.
Yeah, ayun. Thank you. Thank you for one last time, Miss Bea. And I guess my ending piece is, you might not have achieved that dream at 13 years old of being the Miss Universe, but then you're definitely Miss Universe in how great you are and how confident you are. And I'm sure you've inspired many people in this call and out throughout your entire life. And I wish you the best of luck with your with women WIMAD. And we're gonna share that later on for those who can actually follow ang iyong platform. So ayan, again, just to wrap things off, thank you everyone for joining us for our free webinar series this March. We had a very amazing series. All these things you could actually watch on our YouTube, including the one with Elijah Corpus, Aya del Mundo, and later on you will be able to see the one with Bea on our YouTube. I wanted to just talk about a couple of things before we end the program and send the evaluation form, that we actually have a training that will be up soon, and it's going to be on Strat Plan 101, and the one who will be leading it will be none other than our CEO, John Baluyat, who has a master's in leadership. And if you want to learn very good positive strategies, and you're interested in this course, we will send a link in the chat so that you can have access to that. Ayan. Si Joyce from our tech team has sent that. And next, in celebration of Women's Month, we actually have an asynchronous course on positive emotions that will help you deal better and improve your well-being, given that you read well and do the exercises. And we're offering a 50% off on that asynchronous course. And we have 2 days remaining on this. So if this is something you're interested in, again, we're going to send the link once again in the chat, and you may avail of that as well. And lastly, sa mga nagtanong earlier, how to join positive workplaces? Well, currently, we have an internship program on some select positions or units that still have an opening. Please check out our Facebook page in Positive Workplaces to see how you can apply for Positive Workplaces as an intern. When it comes to opening for job, we currently don't have one at the moment, but when we do, if you follow us on Facebook, you'll be able to see this. So, ayan. And lastly, if you're interested in the wonderful talk that Bea gave and whatever resources that we have available on Positive Workplaces, please send us an email at learn@positiveworkplaces.com, and we will be sure to answer your inquiries. And yan, lastly, we are also on YouTube, and we will now be sending the post-evaluation form in the chat room. So before we end, is it possible if we can have a photo up for everyone in the room? And so for those who attended the session today, if you could turn on your camera so that we could have a photo. Ayan, tatanggalin ko lang. Okay, so wala muna siguro mag-message sa chat. Again, thank you again for joining us in such a momentous webinar series this March. So, kailangan nyo lang po i-hold ang smile nyo kasi marami tayo. Okay, giving you a bit more time to open your cameras. Seeing so many beautiful and handsome faces. Thank you for joining again this afternoon. Ayan, Miss Bea, Miss Universe. I will take the picture. Okay? 3, 2, 1. Okay. Okay, hold your smiles. Hold your smiles. Ayan. Okay, once again, I will flash this slide just to inform you guys that the post-evaluation link is now in the chat box. And thank you one last time, Bea, for such an amazing talk. And thank you again to everyone for giving us this time this afternoon. And yeah, have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.